Welcome back to my channel, everybody. I just got done watching the newest Sean Levy film, Deadpool and Wolverine for the MCU, and my God, can I not wait to talk to you guys about it. Let's fucking go. In this movie, Wade Wilson, aka Deadpool, learns from the TVA that his timeline is actually dying, but rather than the entire timeline and all of the people within it going extinct, never to be seen again, the TVA is like, look, you have potential, we could bring you into the sacred timeline, the timeline that we're used to in the MCU, and he could become an Avenger and actually matter. He can mean something. He can have a purpose. Up until this point, Wade has felt very purposeless, like he hasn't really contributed to anything. He hasn't saved the world the way that the Avengers has, and he kind of sees this as an opportunity to mean something, although he loves the people from his timeline so much that he wants to try and save it and not have it just disappear into oblivion, but he can only do this with the help of none other than Wolverine Logan. And although the Wolverine that we know and love has died, he goes across time and different Earths to find a Wolverine that can help him in his cause. The one he stumbles upon, as you see in the trailer, they say it, he kind of let down his world and let a lot of good people die, and he blames himself for it. He's very down on his luck. He's drinking himself to death. He's miserable. And in order for Wade to use him to save his world, he has to not only get Wolverine to agree to help him, but make him realize that he's more than the man he thinks he is, and he is in fact a hero. That's all I'll say about the film, because I don't want to spoil anything. I just want to jump right into what I thought about this movie. I want to start off with the bad first here, which usually I save towards the end, but there's so few bad that I just want to get it out of the way and focus on the good stuff. I'll say this, there was an interview once upon a time where Sam Jackson was at like a press event talking to a bunch of reporters about like a new Avengers movie coming out, and he was talking about how DC has great villains, but the MCU has great heroes. But what he failed to say there is, true, but they have bad villains, and that's kind of a trend that follows into this. Cassandra Nova, who is also Charles Xavier's unborn sister, is the villain of this film. You know that if you've seen the trailer. She's not terrible, but there's nothing standout about her either. There's no complexities or dynamic to her. She doesn't have her own arc. She never has anything that makes you care about her as a character. You get someone like Loki, who's this misunderstood brother, essentially, or Thanos, that truly believes he's just trying to do the right thing and save all of existence by cutting it in half because there's too much people and not enough resources. They're complex characters that even though you don't agree with them, you understand why they're doing what they're doing, and they're layered. There's nothing layered about Cassandra Nova. She's just evil for the sake of being evil. She's pissed off about stuff that happened in her childhood, and she just wants to take over the world. Yeah, she has cool powers, but there's nothing memorable about her. So I won't say she's like the worst villain, but she's definitely mediocre. Also, and I struggled with saying this because I don't want people to think that this story is bad. There's nothing wrong with the story in Deadpool and Wolverine. It's just not Inception. It's not an M. Night Shyamalan movie where you're going to have layers and twists. This is a buddy road trip movie where they're trying to get from point A to point B with one singular purpose. There's nothing special about it, but it works. I'm not saying the story's bad. It's just I expected a little bit more complexities with the whole multiverse, but it's very straightforward. That being said, those are my two fucking gripes, because everything else about this movie just fucking ruled. The bromance between these two is electrifying. This movie could have been a 2-hour film of them just driving in a car to a Krispy Kreme donuts to get donuts and then go back home, sprinkled in with some shit talking that eventually leads to fist fights because the shit talking gets so bad. The whole movie could have been that, and I would have been thoroughly happy, because their banter back and forth is what makes this movie work. The relentless shit talking between the two of them, the bromance that is forming, even though they don't know it yet, it's just so incredibly fun to watch. It's so believable. You really believe like you're watching just two best friends hanging out for 2 hours. And yes, there is a ton of action. There is a ton of blood and gore. This is the most violent, bloodiest Marvel movie I have ever seen. The comedy is just outstanding here, but there's also heart, more than I actually anticipated, more than I expected. On the one hand, you see in the trailer that Deadpool is clearly upset about his timeline kind of disappearing, and he wants to save it, so there is some heart there because it's all the people he loved that he's potentially going to lose. But you get the best heart with Logan's character, and there's this part in the trailer where he says, "I'm not a hero, kid, you got the wrong guy," to, I won't spoil it if you haven't seen the final trailer, but the person turns around and goes, "You were always the wrong guy." until you weren't. And that's a testament to not only Logan as a character, who he never really felt like he fit in until people needed him and he stepped up to do the right thing, but also for Hugh Jackman's character getting cast as Wolverine in X-Men all the way back in the year 2000, because everyone hated his casting. He was nothing like the Wolverine in the comic books. He was supposed to be small, and his character was a lot different than the comic portrayal of it. But then everyone grew to love him to the point where he was the favorite X-Men. He was, they say it in the Deadpool trailer, you were the X-Men. He is the face of that franchise. And his arc here honestly made me tear. I'm not gonna lie. I was tearing towards the end of this movie. They just nailed his character, and you finally get the fucking comic accurate yellow suit that you've been dying for the last 24 years. There's a scene in this film at the end where Deadpool and Wolverine assemble to take on a horde of people. I won't say who it is because I don't want to spoil it, but it is that stand up and cheer clapping moment that you get from Avengers Endgame with the portal scene, or Avengers Infinity War with the Thor throwing his hammer after coming back from Asgard. I was really hoping that this movie was going to have that moment where everyone wanted to just explode with excitement, and it does, but it doesn't just end there. It goes on for like 10 minutes of just something that I couldn't even dreamed of. It was just such a perfect, beautiful moment, and I can't wait to watch it over and over and over again. The soundtrack is incredible. Not only is the score they made for this movie just so exciting and awesome, but they have like Avril Lavigne in here. They have NSYNC, the Goo Goo Dolls. They have Green Day. Hell, they even have a split-second skit of The Greatest Show from The Greatest Showman, which I thought was wildly funny. Everything that I wanted this movie to be, minus the weak villain, they delivered. Sean Levy just showed up. He knew the assignment, and he gave us exactly what we wanted. Marvel has been in a bit of a rut lately, and they fucking needed this movie, because I truly believe the praise and the hype for this movie is going to lead into the new Captain America film, New World Order, where that movie needs a win, because it has been through like 3 rewrites, 2 like they filmed that movie twice to get it right. And as expensive as that is, it shows that Kevin Feige is determined and committed to getting Marvel on the right track. And this is the best MCU movie we've gotten since Spider-Man No Way Home. It's also filled with a ton of cameos, and I was worried that a lot of the cameos were going to be like just water weight, meaningless, like they were just going to pop in and pop out and have no relevance to the story other than like, hey, it's a multiverse movie, so let's just have multiversal characters show up for, you know, cannon fodder and for fan service. But it wasn't. Every cameo had a purpose, and I really like that they did that. There are some cameos that I thought were going to show up that didn't, but the ones that do, half of the cameos do show up for like a split second, but as I said, it makes sense for the story that's being told. But then there are a small group of cameos that come that are there for a solid half hour and have a lot to do. And I was scared when they first came on screen that it was going to be another like high and by kind of moment. But they all get their own epic, awesome fight scene. And it was just so awesome seeing these characters fight alongside Deadpool and Wolverine. I can't stress enough how fucking awesome this movie was and how much adrenaline I had just on the edge of my seat the whole time, just having a blast. This is the definition of a summer blockbuster movie. It's the definition of the MCU and how it can deliver still in 2024. It's the definition of how Ryan Reynolds, Hugh Jackman were born to play these roles. I fucking loved this movie. I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. I can't wait to see it again. I hope we get to see these characters again. I know that Hugh Jackman has said he's done, but I mean, with Secret Wars right around the corner, I would love to see him interact with all of the Avengers. I don't know if that's going to happen. This movie does end with a beautiful bow, doesn't leave any threads, doesn't set anything up. This might be, in my opinion, one of the best Marvel trilogies, even though the first 2 were Fox, that was ever made. The comedy works. I was legit crying at some points. I was laughing so hard. I also cried a lot towards the end because, not cried, but like I teared up because of how emotional it was and how they just delivered that emotional arc in both the characters. Anyway, I hope I gave you guys a reason to go to the movies this weekend to see this movie, although I'm sure no matter what I said, you guys were all going to go see the movie anyway, because why the fuck not? It's Deadpool and Wolverine. You guys have been waiting for this movie for like the last 15 years. I'd love to talk about it in the comments down below, and as always, I'll catch you next time.